In every era of history, men have fought battles not just on the fields of war, but within the walls of their own mind. The modern battlefield is invisible: your attention, your energy, your discipline. The ancient warrior wielded his sword. The modern warrior wields his self-control. In a world that sells pleasure faster than purpose, semen retention becomes more than a practice. It becomes rebellion. It is the quiet decision to rise above the noise, to channel raw life force into vision and purpose rather than waste it on impulse and distraction. Most men live as reactors, chasing every spark of temptation, following every urge that flashes across their screen. But a man who learns to hold, to redirect, to master his inner fire, becomes magnetic. People feel something different around him, a grounded, electric presence that can't be faked. It's not arrogance, it's alignment. He's not trying to prove himself. He simply knows himself. This practice isn't about suppression, it's about transformation. Energy doesn't disappear, it evolves. When you stop scattering your power in every direction, it starts building pressure, and that pressure becomes potential. You start walking differently. Your voice deepens, your mind clears. You stop chasing pleasure and start chasing progress. That's when the world begins to notice. The same energy that could have been burned away in moments of weakness now fuels your ambition, your focus, your creativity. This is how legends are born, not through luck, but through self-command. The muse that once tempted you becomes the fuel that drives you. She's no longer the test, she's the reflection. She feels your energy, but now you stand unmoved, but controlled. You've learned to hold your ground when others fold, to keep your mission above your emotions, and your purpose above your urges. That's the moment a man becomes a magnet, because he no longer chases what drains him. He attracts what aligns with him. The truth most men never hear is that your seed represents your potential physically, mentally, and spiritually. It's not superstition, it's biology and focus combined. Every great movement in history began with a man who refused to live on autopilot. The man who learns to master his impulses learns to master the world around him. When your energy stops leaking through distractions, it rises through discipline. Your eyes sharpen, your speech carries weight, and your silence commands attention. You begin to realize that masculinity isn't about dominance over others, it's about dominance over yourself. The moment you break free from compulsive behavior, you start writing your own code. Society trains men to be consumers of pleasure, entertainment, comfort. But the man who resists the spell of instant gratification becomes the rare one, a creator. He doesn't chase dopamine hits, he builds empires. Every time you say no to weakness, you're saying yes to mastery. Every time you resist the easy path, you sharpen the edge that separates leaders from followers. Semen retention, the silent dominance harnessing your power in modern relationships. In every age there have been men who live loudly, and men who move silently, and though the crowd often crowns the loudest, with praise history remembers the still ones, the builders, the thinkers, the grounded warriors who walk through chaos without losing their rhythm. In this modern era of noise and display, power has been diluted into performance. Attention has become the new currency, and instant gratification its addiction. Yet beneath the noise, the same ancient fire still lives in the human spirit, the energy that once drove kings to build, saints to meditate, and creators to shape worlds from silence. To retain that fire is to remember that life force is sacred, not expendable. The discipline of semen retention, when understood symbolically, is not about denying pleasure, but about redirecting it, turning raw potential into refined power, indulgence into insight, and impulse into purpose. It is the art of holding your own lightning without letting it burn you. In a world that drains attention through endless stimulation, a man who can hold his focus becomes His energy is not scattered in fragments of desire or distraction. It gathers, condenses, and hardens into quiet confidence. His presence alone begins to speak the language of strength. This is the first layer of silent dominance to own your energy before you try to own your destiny. The second layer unfolds in the realm of mind and emotion. Modern relationships are no longer built on survival. They are built on connection, energy, and perception. People sense each other's frequency before they know each other's names. A man who has learned to govern himself radiates stability. He doesn't chase, because his energy flows inward first. He doesn't cling, because his worth isn't tied to validation. His calmness becomes gravity. It draws, it steadies, it influences without effort. Women, colleagues, even strangers sense it subconsciously. The subtle rhythm of presence feels safer than noise, more magnetic than display. In this way, retention becomes not an act of resistance, but an expression of respect. Respect for one's own vitality, one's mind, one's emotions. It transforms lust into luminosity, agitation into awareness. Ancient sages called this process the refinement of ojas, the distilled essence of creative energy that nourishes clarity and willpower. In modern language, it is focus, drive, and emotional control. The man who cultivates it doesn't need to dominate anyone, because his composure already commands the room. He becomes both mirror and mountain, reflecting the world's movement, yet unmoved by its turbulence. When he speaks, people listen, not because he demands attention, but because his energy carries weight. In a world where everyone is shouting, silence becomes the loudest sound. The third layer of silent dominance lies in purpose. Every man carries two currents inside him, one that seeks comfort and one that seeks challenge. I wants to be entertained. The second wants to evolve. Semen retention symbolizes choosing the second current. It means you refuse to let your energy leak into distractions that yield nothing lasting. You channel that current into creation, your work, your art, your mission, your body, your vision. What begins as physical discipline becomes psychological clarity. You start waking earlier, thinking sharper, breathing slower. The body aligns with the mind aligns with intent, and the intent becomes a living force. You begin to experience a kind of strength that has nothing to prove. It does not boast, it simply acts. The modern world teaches men to chase applause, but silent dominance teaches them to chase mastery. You begin to realize that relationships thrive, not because you demand love, but because you generate respect. Your partner no longer senses restlessness in your eyes, but focus. Not hunger, but depth. Not control, but direction. Energy that once sought release now seeks expression. It paints, builds, leads, writes, and protects. You stop consuming the world and start contributing to it. And the irony is that when you stop seeking to attract, you begin to attract everything, not through strategy, but through frequency. People trust energy that is whole. They follow men whose strength feels earned. The silence of mastery becomes more persuasive than the noise of desire. The final layer is transcendence, where discipline matures into freedom. The modern man often confuses indulgence with liberation, believing that doing whatever he feels makes him free. But the opposite is true. Freedom without discipline decays into dependency. Power without direction collapses into chaos. Semen retention, at its symbolic peak, is the remembrance that energy obeys consciousness. To hold your energy is to hold your awareness steady in a world that profits from your distraction. It means you act from choice, not compulsion. This is where dominance becomes spiritual, not dominance over others, but over time, fear, and the illusions that bind weaker minds. When the ancient warriors meditated before battle, they were not escaping violence, they were taming it. When the sages withdrew from the world, they were not rejecting life, they were refining it. The modern man can do the same in his own way, through mindfulness, focus, purposeful work, and emotional integrity. In relationships, this creates harmony instead of control, polarity instead of power struggle. The masculine energy of stillness balances the feminine energy of flow. Together, they form creation itself, dynamic yet stable, fiery yet calm. The man who lives this truth becomes rare, because he no longer reacts to life. He responds. His strength is invisible, yet undeniable. People feel it in his eyes, in his silence, in his patience. He does not announce his greatness, he embodies it. That is the essence of silent dominance, the ability to move through a chaotic world without losing your axis. In the end, semen retention is not a rule or ritual. It is a mirror that reflects the deeper truth of mastery, that the greatest conquest is not of kingdoms or crowds, but of the self. And when a man conquers that, every relationship, every dream, every challenge aligns before him like iron drawn to a magnet, because true power, like true love, does not need to be pursued, it only needs to be remembered. Understand this. Attraction isn't something you pursue, it's something you radiate. When you retain your power, you broadcast strength without saying a word. Your aura becomes magnetic because it's not desperate. You don't need validation, you carry purpose. Women, opportunities, respect, they are drawn to the frequency of a man who knows where he is going. Retention gives you that stillness, that unshakable energy that says, I'm not here to be liked, I'm here to lead. When you no longer move from lust, you move from intention. You start creating instead of consuming, building instead of begging, leading instead of chasing. This is why people say you glow, because you've become the lighthouse, not the lost ship. The energy that once made you restless now makes you relentless. You stop trying to impress and start expressing. You stop following trends and start setting them. That's the evolution of the masculine spirit. From reactive to responsive, from distracted to directed, from scattered to sovereign. The hardest part isn't the beginning, it's the consistency. Every day the world will whisper distractions, quick pleasure, short rewards, easy comfort. The algorithm feeds your weakness because it profits from your attention. But the man walking the path of retention knows that discipline is a muscle. The more you test it, the stronger it becomes. Every time you resist the lure, you refine your focus. Every time you hold your energy, you expand your capacity. And when you fail, because every warrior stumbles, you don't drown in guilt. You rebuild with clarity. You remind yourself, this isn't about perfection, it's about progression. The modern man's power is forged in silence, in those unseen moments where he chooses mission over temptation. The great paradox is that once you no longer crave validation, the world validates you. When you stop chasing women, they start noticing you. When you stop chasing results, success begins chasing you. Because power recognizes power, and control respects control. Retention teaches patience. Patience teaches perspective. And perspective gives rise to purpose. Once you learn to delay gratification, you stop being manipulated by the world. You see, through the marketing, the noise, the illusions, you start realizing how easily men are enslaved by their own urges. But not you, not anymore. You've learned that every impulse is a test of sovereignty. You no longer ask, what do I want right now? You ask, who do I want to become? That single shift changes everything. The fire that once burned, you now fuels you. You channel your energy into learning, training, creating, conquering. You build the body, the business, the legacy. You become the kind of man whose presence inspires others to rise. Because real strength isn't loud, it's consistent. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you could, but you don't. That's the ultimate power. Control over yourself when everything around you is screaming for your attention. Eventually, the muse reappears in the form of distraction, temptation, or comfort. She tests whether you've truly evolved. She's not your enemy, she's your mirror. If you still crumble, it means there's work to do. But if you can face her energy with composure, if you can look at beauty, temptation, and luxury without losing your center, that's when you've mastered the game. You've transcended the illusion that pleasure equals power. You've realized that the true magnet doesn't chase, he attracts. The true alpha doesn't dominate, he inspires. You become the man who can enter any room and change its temperature, not because you are trying, but because your energy demands it. People feel it. The muse may still circle you, testing your balance, but you now dance with discipline. You no longer resist out of fear, but out of awareness. You've turned temptation into training. And that's the core of this path. Mastery, not suppression. You've learned to redirect life force into purpose, passion, and presence. You're no longer a man controlled by urges. You're a man guided by vision. Your energy becomes the currency of your destiny. The more you protect it, the richer your life becomes. The mission isn't to avoid women, pleasure, or emotion, it's to rise above addiction, distraction, and loss of control. Because when you master your energy, you master your world. The magnet doesn't move toward the muse. He stands still, and she orbits him. The man who can resist her spell isn't cold, he's complete. He's the storm and the stillness. And that's what modern masculinity needs most. Men who are grounded, driven, disciplined. Men who choose evolution over indulgence. Remember this, your energy is sacred, your focus is rare, and your discipline is divine. Protect it, build with it, live by it. Because when you master your seed, you don't just resist her spell, you write your own legend. Before we conclude, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and do not forget to drop your location in the comments. I'd love to know where you are watching from. And if you ever have any questions, join our Telegram channel where we interact directly and help each other grow. The link is in the description. Please share video to your dear one. Have a powerful day.